Brett Favre was born in Kiln, Mississippi, where red dirt roads and humid air shaped boys into men before their time. In a small wooden house on the edge of town, he threw a football into a rusted metal bucket until his hands bled. He wasn't chasing glory. He was chasing his father's gaze. Irvin Favre, a high school football coach, was a man of iron whose voice could silence a field and whose stare could break a boy. He loved his son in the hard Southern way, no hugs, no softness, only commands. Get up or leave the field. And Brett always got up. Not because it didn't hurt, but because he feared disappointing the man whose approval he craved more than air. His mother, Benita, was gentle, but her voice was faint smoke in a house ruled by iron. So Brett learned early that weakness had no place in Kiln. Tears were a luxury. Pain was a test. Every throw was a plea, Dad, look at me. Every fall was a vow, I'll rise again. Mississippi taught him strength, but stole something vital, the right to be weak. And in that crucible, Brett Favre, the boy who would one day be called Iron Man, was forged. Brett Favre left Mississippi in 1991 with an old suitcase and a fire that no one could measure. Drafted by the Atlanta Falcons, he was dismissed as reckless, a Southern kid who threw like he was firing a gun, wild and undisciplined. He sat on benches, laughed off the doubts, and waited. But fate had other plans. In 1992, the Falcons traded him to the Green Bay Packers, a team in icy Wisconsin where football was not just sport, but religion. At Lambeau Field, destiny called. When starter Don Majkowski fell injured, Favre stepped in. His first pass hit the ground, his second was intercepted, but his third, a long throw cutting through the cold wind, landed in Kittrick Taylor's hands in the end zone. The stadium erupted, a snow-white city burning with hope. At 23, the boy from Kiln became the heartbeat of Green Bay. He played like every game was his last, throwing without calculation, running into danger instead of dodging it. They called him the gunslinger, but to Brett, it was survival. He wasn't playing for contracts or headlines. He was playing to prove to his father, to Mississippi, to himself, that he would never be forgotten. And in that frozen cathedral, America found a new name to chant, Brett Favre. Brett Favre's rise in Green Bay became more than football. It became folklore. In the mid-1990s, America watched him transform Sundays into sacred rituals. In 1995, he won his first MVP. The next year, another. The year after, a third, 3 consecutive, a feat no one has repeated. He played with reckless joy, throwing like his heart might explode if he stopped, running headlong into danger, refusing to leave the field no matter the injury. And then came Super Bowl Roman 31 in 1997. Under a shower of confetti, Favre hoisted the Lombardi trophy, his number 4 raised high, tears streaming as chants of Favre, Favre, echoed like prayer through Lambeau Field. In a nation divided by politics and storms, he became the one thing that made America cheer together. Fans loved his wildness, his grit, his refusal to surrender. He was not perfect. His passes sometimes wobbled, his decisions sometimes reckless, but that was the point. Brett Favre was human, and in his humanity he became heroic. He gave the Midwest its beating heart and the NFL its Iron Man. Behind the roar of the crowd and the glitter of trophies, Brett Favre carried a quieter truth, the cost of being immortal. Every pass, every hit, every dive into danger left scars that no camera could see. His wrists swelled, his shoulders burned, his head rang with the echoes of countless collisions. Painkillers lined his locker, whiskey helped him sleep, and concussions blurred the edges of memory. Yet he told no one. He smiled, taped his hands, and said, "I'm fine." America saw the Iron Man, the gunslinger who never missed a game, but inside he was a man running from fragility. Each throw was beautiful, but beauty came steeply priced. He played not just for victory, but to outrun the silence of Kiln, the shadow of his father's voice, the fear of being forgotten. And so he kept stepping onto the field, battered but unbowed, until the legend began to consume the man. The world hailed Brett Favre as indestructible, but in the quiet, he knew even steel bends, and every Sunday he bent a little more. On December 21, 2003, Brett Favre's world shattered. His father, Irvin, The stern coach who had forged him in fire, the man whose approval he had chased since childhood, collapsed from a sudden heart attack in Mississippi. For Brett, it was as if the ground itself had vanished beneath him. Yet the very next night, under the lights of Oakland, he took the field. His eyes were swollen, his heart broken, but his spirit refused to yield. He played not for records, not for fame, but for the man who had taught him never to quit. 4 touchdowns, 399 yards, a performance so transcendent that even the opposing crowd rose to their feet in awe. Teammates wept on the sidelines. Fans whispered that they were watching not a game, but a testament. Brett later said he felt his father's presence in every throw, guiding him, steadying him, reminding him that strength is not the absence of pain, but the courage to play through it. That night became legend, not because of the numbers, but because of the heart. In grief, Brett Favre revealed the truth behind the Iron Man, that even steel bends, but love can carry it through the storm. Brett Favre's legend was built on toughness, but behind the curtain he fought battles no scoreboard could measure. The painkillers that dulled his cracked ribs became chains he struggled to break. Whiskey, once a companion to sleep, grew into a shadow that followed him through long nights. Concussions blurred his memory, leaving him staring at walls, wondering what he had just said or where he had placed his keys. Yet every morning he rose, taped his hands, and stepped back into the storm, unwilling to surrender the image of the Iron Man. To teammates, he was still the smiling gunslinger, slapping backs, cracking jokes, throwing with reckless joy. But inside, he carried the weight of fragility, the fear that if he admitted weakness, the myth would collapse. America saw a warrior who never missed a game. Brett knew he was a man trying to survive himself. His greatest opponent was not the Chicago Bears or the Minnesota Vikings. It was the silence of his own pain. And still, he played. Because for Brett Favre, endurance was not just a choice. It was the only language he had ever been taught. Brett Favre's twilight years became a saga of farewells and returns, each one more complicated than the last. In 2008, after 16 seasons in Green Bay, he stood before cameras and announced his retirement. Fans wept, believing the Iron Man had finally laid down his armor. But months later, the fire still burned. He returned, first with the New York Jets, then with the Minnesota Vikings, each comeback both thrilling and bittersweet. In purple, he played with the same reckless joy, leading the Vikings to the brink of another Super Bowl, proving that even in his 40s, his arm could still carve through defenses like lightning. Yet the body that had carried him through 321 consecutive games began to betray him. Hits left him slower to rise, concussions blurred his memory, and the myth of invincibility cracked under the weight of time. Fans debated his legacy. Was he the gunslinger who couldn't let go, or the warrior who refused to surrender? Favre himself admitted the struggle. He loved the game too much to walk away, yet each return carried the shadow of finality. In those years, Brett Favre became more than a quarterback. He became a parable of endurance and fragility, a man wrestling not just with opponents, but with the inevitability of goodbye. When the stadium lights finally dimmed and the roar of Lambeau faded into memory, Brett Favre stepped into a quieter world. No more chants of Favre, Favre, echoing through frozen skies, only the soft hum of mornings in Mississippi. The Iron Man of the NFL now faced the silence of his own body, the tremors of old injuries, the fog of concussions, the struggle to remember simple things like where he had placed his keys. Yet even in this new battle, he refused surrender. He rose each day, walked the red dirt roads, smiled at his wife Deanna, and found joy in the laughter of his grandchildren. He spoke openly about the toll of football, warning others of the dangers he had once ignored, turning his pain into a kind of prayer for the next generation. Favre no longer played for America, he fought for his own soul. And in that fight, he became something greater than a quarterback. He became a testament to resilience itself, a reminder that even when the cheers fade, the spirit that carried you through storms can still burn quietly, faithfully, in the silence after the storm. Brett Favre's legacy is not confined to numbers or records. It lives in the ritual of Sundays. For millions of fans across America, his name became the sound of autumn, the heartbeat of Lambeau Field, the reason families gathered around televisions and stadium seats. He gave the Midwest its hero, a man who played with joy and grit, who made every throw feel like a leap of faith. His 70,000 passing yards, 500 touchdowns, and 321 consecutive starts are etched in history, but the true measure of his greatness lies in the way he made people believe. He was proof that toughness was not just about strength, but about spirit. That resilience could be contagious. That a boy from Kiln, Mississippi, could rise from red dirt roads to become the Iron Man of the NFL. Today, when fans recall the roar of Lambeau, the frozen breath of winter games, and the chants of Favre, Favre, echoing like prayer, they remember not just a quarterback, but a symbol of endurance. Brett Favre turned football into faith and Sundays into something sacred. Brett Favre's life after football revealed a man stripped of stadium lights, yet still defined by endurance. In Kiln, Mississippi, he returned to the red dirt roads of his youth, this time not as a boy chasing his father's approval, but as a husband, a father, and a grandfather seeking peace. He poured his energy into family, watching his daughters grow, guiding his grandchildren, and cherishing the quiet mornings that fame had once stolen. Beyond family, he gave back, supporting charities, speaking openly about the dangers of concussions, and lending his name to causes that mattered. Favre's wealth and records were never his true legacy. It was the way he turned pain into purpose, using his story to warn, to inspire, to heal. He became a man who no longer played for America's applause, but for the small victories of everyday life. A smile from Deanna, a child's laughter, the simple grace of sunrise over Mississippi fields. In the silence beyond the roar, Brett Favre proved that greatness is not measured by what you achieve, but by how you endure and how you love when the cheering stops. Brett Favre, the Iron Man who once stood unbroken through 321 consecutive games, now faces the opponent no whistle can silence: time itself. Parkinson's disease, seeded by decades of collisions, has become his last rival. The man who memorized defenses in seconds now leaves notes on the fridge to remember his medicine. The quarterback who once threw with reckless joy now ties his shoelaces with trembling hands. Yet even in this decline, Favre refuses surrender. Each morning he rises, stiff and weary, but still moving, still breathing, still loving. He leans on Deanna, the woman who has carried him through storms, and in her smile he finds the strength that stadiums once gave him. The cheers are gone, the headlines faded, but in the quiet of Hattiesburg, Brett Favre fights not for records, but for dignity. His legacy is no longer measured in yards or touchdowns, but in resilience, the courage to keep living when the body falters, the grace to accept weakness as part of strength. For fans who once believed in Sundays, his story now speaks to something deeper, that even when steel bends, the spirit can still burn. And in that fire, Brett Favre remains what he always was, a testament to endurance, a man who never stopped rising, even when the world thought he had fallen. Brett Favre's story now belongs not only to football, but to everyone who has ever struggled to rise after life's hardest hits. His records, 70,000 yards, 500 touchdowns, 3 MVPs, will always stand in the books, but his true legacy is written in the hearts of fans who saw him play through pain, grief, and doubt. He became more than a quarterback. He became a mirror for endurance itself. For the farmer waking stiff at dawn, for the worker pushing through fatigue, for the parent carrying burdens unseen, Favre's journey reminds us that resilience is not about being unbroken. It is about refusing to stop. Even as scandals scarred his name, even as illness slowed his steps, the boy from Kiln remained a symbol of grit, of faith, of love. His father's boots still rest in the garage, his wife's hand still anchors him, and his story still echoes in Lambeau's frozen air. Brett Favre's legacy is not perfection, it is persistence. And in that persistence, he gave America something sacred, the belief that no matter how many times you fall, you can rise again. And in rising, you can inspire the world. Brett Favre's story now belongs not only to football, but to everyone who has ever struggled to rise after life's hardest hits. His records, 70,000 yards, 500 touchdowns, 3 MVPs, will always stand in the books, but his true legacy is written in the hearts of fans who saw him play through pain, grief, and doubt. He became more than a quarterback. He became a mirror for endurance itself. For the farmer waking stiff at dawn, for the worker pushing through fatigue, for the parent carrying burdens unseen, Favre's journey reminds us that resilience is not about being unbroken. It is about refusing to stop. Even as scandals scarred his name, even as illness slowed his steps, the boy from Kiln remained a symbol of grit, of faith, of love. His father's boots still rest in the garage, his wife's hand still anchors him, and his story still echoes in Lambeau's frozen air. Brett Favre's legacy is not perfection, it is persistence. And in that persistence, he gave America something sacred, the belief that no matter how many times you fall, you can rise again, and in rising, you can inspire the world. Brett Favre's story ends not with a final touchdown, but with a benediction. He was the gunslinger who turned Sundays into sacred rituals, the Iron Man who carried America's faith on his shoulders, the boy from Kiln who rose from red dirt roads to the frozen cathedral of Lambeau Field. His passes were not perfect, but they were alive, wild, fearless, burning with the urgency of a man who refused to be forgotten. He gave fans more than victories. He gave them belief. And though scandals scarred his name, though illness now slows his steps, his legend endures in the echo of chants, in the memory of winter breath mingling with stadium lights, in the image of number 4 standing unbroken in the storm. Favre's life reminds us that greatness is not about being flawless, but about rising again and again, even when the world doubts you, even when your body falters, even when silence replaces applause. In the end, Brett Favre was not just a quarterback. He was a parable of resilience, a testament to love, a symbol of endurance. And as long as America gathers on Sundays, his spirit will linger, etched in the game, in the faith of fans, in the eternal fire of the gunslinger. Brett Favre's journey now flows beyond the field, beyond the scandals, beyond the illness, into something eternal, the echo of the gunslinger. His story is no longer just about touchdowns or trophies, but about the fragile humanity behind the myth. He was the boy who bled on Mississippi dirt, the man who carried Green Bay on his shoulders, the son who played through tears for a father who would never see it, the husband who leaned on love when the world turned away. His body may tremble, his memory may falter, but his spirit remains carved into the fabric of Sundays. Each chant of Favre still lingers in Lambeau's frozen air. Each highlight reel still burns with reckless joy. Each reminder note on his fridge still testifies to endurance. Brett Favre's life is a parable, that strength is born from weakness, that love outlasts fame, and that even when steel bends, the fire of resilience can light generations. In the end, he was never just a quarterback. He was a symbol of America's faith in rising again, a gunslinger whose echo will never fade. Brett Favre's journey is not a tale that ends with the final whistle. It is a flame that continues to burn in memory, in ritual, in the spirit of resilience. He was the boy from Kiln who learned to rise after every fall, the gunslinger who turned Lambeau into a cathedral, the son who played through tears, the husband who leaned on love when the world turned away. His body may tremble, his memory may fade, but his story endures in every chant of his name, in every child who throws a ball against a wall, in every fan who believes that toughness is not about being unbroken, but about refusing to stop. Favre's life reminds us that greatness is not perfection. It is persistence, it is love. It is the courage to keep rising even when the world doubts you. And so, in the silence after the storm, Brett Favre remains what he always was, a symbol of endurance, a testament to the human spirit, a gunslinger whose fire will echo through Sundays forever. In the stillness of Hattiesburg, Brett Favre now lives with the echoes of a life that once roared like thunder. The stadiums are gone, the headlines faded, but the lessons remain etched in his trembling hands and weary smile. Each morning, as sunlight filters through the pines, He ties his shoes slowly, steadied by Deanna's presence, reminded that love is stronger than fame. The boy from Kiln who once threw until his hands bled has become a man who fights battles unseen, not for trophies, but for dignity. His story is no longer about the Iron Man who never missed a game. It is about the fragile warrior who learned that true strength is found in vulnerability. Fans still recall the gunslinger's wild throws, the fearless joy, the nights of glory. But in the quiet flame of his later years, Brett Favre offers something deeper, a reminder that even when the body bends, the spirit can endure. His legacy is not just in football, but in the courage to keep rising, to keep loving, to keep believing, even when the world grows silent. Brett Favre's story does not end in silence. It reverberates like an echo carried through generations. In Lambeau's frozen air, his name still rises with the breath of fans who remember the gunslinger's wild throws, the fearless joy, the nights of glory. In Kiln, Mississippi, children still toss footballs against rusted buckets, chasing the same dream that once drove a boy to bleed for recognition. His legacy is not confined to records or scandals, but to the enduring symbol of resilience he gave America, that toughness is not about being flawless, but about rising again and again, no matter the cost. Favre's journey, his triumphs, his scars, his humanity, remains a mirror for anyone who has ever stood up after falling. And so even as his body bends and memory fades, the spirit of Brett Favre lingers in the game itself. Each Sunday when the whistle blows and the crowd roars, somewhere in that sound lives the eternal echo of number 4, the Iron Man, the gunslinger, the boy from Kiln who taught the world that endurance is its own kind of victory. And so, Brett Favre's journey comes to rest not in the roar of a stadium, but in the quiet of memory. He was the boy from Kiln who chased his father's voice, the gunslinger who turned Sundays into scripture, the Iron Man who carried America's faith through decades of storms. He stumbled, he fell, he broke, but each time he rose again, sometimes for victory, sometimes for love, sometimes simply because rising was all he knew. His story is not perfection, but persistence, not glory, but endurance, not fame, but the fragile beauty of being human. In the end, Brett Favre's greatest gift was not the touchdowns or the trophies, but the reminder that strength is born from weakness, that love outlasts applause, and that even when steel bends, the fire of resilience can light the way. His name will forever echo in Lambeau's frozen air, in the hearts of fans, in the ritual of Sundays. And when the world remembers number 4, they will not see just a quarterback. They will see a man who taught us that to rise again and again is the truest victory of all. Sometimes at night, Brett Favre sits alone on the porch, the whispering pines swaying like an old hymn. The radio hums faintly inside, Deanna's laughter drifting from the kitchen, and he feels the weight of silence pressing against memory. His hands tremble, his knees ache, but his heart still beats with the rhythm of a boy who once believed that as long as the ball flew, pain could be left behind. He knows the crowds are gone, the stadium lights dimmed, the headlines faded. Yet in the quiet, he discovers something greater than glory, gratitude. Gratitude for the mornings when he still recognizes Deanna's smile, for the children who call him Coach Brett, for the chance to rise one more time even when the body resists. The Iron Man has rusted, but the fire remains. And in that fire, Favre finds peace, not in trophies or applause, but in the simple truth that love endures, memory flickers but does not vanish, and resilience is its own kind of immortality. America once cheered him as a hero. Now, in the twilight of his years, Brett Favre teaches a softer lesson, that the greatest victory is not in never falling, but in rising gently, gratefully, until the last light fades. Brett Favre's life, in the end, is not a tale of perfection, but of persistence. He was the boy from Kiln who chased his father's stern gaze, the gunslinger who turned Sundays into scripture, the Iron Man who carried America's faith through decades of storms. He stumbled through scandals, he bent beneath illness, he trembled as memory betrayed him, but he never surrendered. Each rise, each fall, each trembling throw became part of a larger parable, That greatness is not measured by trophies or applause, but by the will to keep standing when the world expects you to collapse. Favre's legacy is not just in Lambeau's frozen air or in the record books. It lives in the quiet resilience of anyone who wakes each morning to fight one more day. His story reminds us that love outlasts fame, that weakness can reveal strength, and that even when steel rusts, the fire of endurance can still burn. And so, Brett Favre's journey closes not with silence, but with a lesson that to rise again and again is the truest victory of all. As the years stretch on, Brett Favre's life has become a quiet ritual, each day a reminder of both loss and endurance. The stadiums are gone, but the rhythm of Sundays still lingers in his bones. He wakes slowly, body stiff, memory flickering, yet he still steps outside to feel the Mississippi sun on his face. Sometimes he picks up a football, trembling hands struggling to hold it, and though the throw is weak, the arc is true. In that fragile flight, he sees all the Sundays of his past, the roar of Lambeau, the confetti of Super Bowl Roman 31, the tears in Oakland, the laughter of teammates, the stern gaze of his father. Each throw now is not for victory, but for remembrance. Deanna watches from the porch, her smile steady, her presence the anchor of his fading world. And Brett, the Iron Man who once seemed indestructible, now understands that immortality was never about records or applause. It was about love, about resilience, about rising even when broken. His last Sunday is not played under lights, but in the golden hush of Mississippi fields, where children laugh, where his grandson runs, and where Brett Favre, trembling yet unbowed, still rises to throw one more time. In the twilight of his years, Brett Favre's story no longer belongs to stadiums or headlines. It belongs to memory, to ritual, to the eternal rhythm of Sundays. Each laugh of children on a grassy field, each echo of a ball striking a receiver's hands, carries a fragment of his spirit. The Iron Man who once stood unbroken now sits quietly in Mississippi, his body trembling, his memory fading, yet his legacy burning brighter than ever. For fans, he remains the gunslinger who played with reckless joy, the son who honored his father through tears, the husband who leaned on love when the world turned away. His life is a reminder that glory is fleeting, but resilience endures. And so, every Sunday, whether in Lambeau's frozen air or in the golden hush of southern fields, Brett Favre's presence lingers. Not in the roar of crowds, but in the quiet faith of those who believe that rising after every fall is the truest victory. His story is no longer just football. It is a parable of endurance, a testament to love, a flame that will never die. Brett Favre's journey now belongs to history, yet it breathes beyond the confines of time. His records will fade in comparison to new names. His scandals will blur in the churn of headlines, but the essence of his story endures. He was the boy who threw until his hands bled, the son who played through grief, the husband who leaned on love, the Iron Man who carried America's faith through decades of storms. His life is a parable not of perfection, but of resilience, proof that greatness lies not in never falling, but in rising again and again, even when broken. Generations from now, when children toss footballs in backyards, when fans gather on Sundays, when the frozen air of Lambeau carries echoes of the past, Favre's spirit will linger. Not as a flawless hero, but as a reminder that humanity itself is the true victory. Brett Favre's legacy is no longer bound to the game. It is bound to the timeless truth that endurance, love, and faith can outlast even the sharpest decline. And in that truth, his story will live forever. In the hush of Mississippi nights, Brett Favre's life feels like a prayer whispered into the wind. The stadiums are gone, the headlines faded, but the spirit remains, etched in trembling hands, in Deanna's steady smile, in the laughter of children who still call him Coach. His journey was never about perfection. It was about persistence, about rising after every fall, about carrying love through storms. And now, as memory flickers and the body bends, Favre's legacy becomes something greater than football. It becomes a benediction that strength is born from weakness, that love outlasts fame, that resilience is its own kind of immortality. He gave America legendary Sundays, and in return, America holds his story as a reminder that even when the lights dim, the fire of endurance can still burn. Brett Favre's life is a prayer answered not in victories, but in the quiet grace of survival. And in that grace, the gunslinger's spirit will echo forever, through fields, through voices, through time itself. Brett Favre's life, when seen whole, is not the tale of a flawless hero, but of a man who kept rising. From the red dirt of kiln to the frozen breath of lambeau, from the tears shed for his father to the trembling hands of his later years, his journey is a testament to endurance. He gave America legendary Sundays, moments when strangers became family under the roar of the crowd. He stumbled through storms of scandal, bent beneath illness and faced the erosion of memory. But each time he stood again, not for glory, but for love, for faith, for the promise of resilience. His story is a benediction whispered across generations, that strength is born from weakness, that love outlasts fame, and that the truest victory is not in never falling, but in rising again and again. And so, as the sun sets over Mississippi fields, Brett Favre's legacy endures, not in trophies or headlines, but in the eternal fire of the gunslinger, a flame that will echo through Sundays forever. In the afterglow of his long journey, Brett Favre's presence lingers not in stadiums or headlines, but in the quiet corners of memory and culture. His story has become more than football. It is woven into the fabric of resilience itself. The boy from Kiln, the gunslinger of Lambeau, the son who played through grief, the husband who leaned on love, now lives on as a parable told in living rooms, in backyards, in the laughter of children tossing a ball against the sky. His name is spoken not only in highlight reels, but in conversations about endurance, about the cost of greatness, about the beauty of rising even when broken. Favre's legacy glows like the last light of sunset, soft, enduring, eternal. It reminds America that heroes are not immortal but human, and that their greatest gift is not perfection, but the courage to keep standing. In that afterglow, Brett Favre remains what he always was, a flame of resilience, a symbol of love, a gunslinger whose spirit will echo through Sundays long after the final whistle has blown. Brett Favre's story, though bound by time, now rises into something timeless, a flame that will not die. His body may tremble, his memory may falter, but the spirit that carried him through decades of storms burns beyond the field. It glows in the laughter of children tossing footballs in backyards, in the chants that still echo through Lambeau's frozen air, in the quiet resilience of anyone who wakes each morning to fight one more day. Favre's life is no longer measured in touchdowns or trophies, but in the endurance of love, the persistence of faith, the courage to rise even when broken. He was the boy from Kiln, the Iron Man of Sundays, the husband who leaned on love, the father who played through tears, and now the elder who teaches that resilience itself is a kind of immortality. His flame is not the blaze of stadium lights, but the steady glow of a life lived fully, painfully, beautifully. And in that glow, Brett Favre remains eternal, a gunslinger whose fire will echo through generations, reminding the world that to rise again and again is the truest victory of all. In the end, Brett Favre's story resounds not in the roar of stadiums, but in the quiet echoes that linger long after the lights have dimmed. His name is carried in the breath of fans who still recall snowy nights in Green Bay, in the laughter of children who toss footballs in backyards, in the steady gaze of Deanna, who remains his anchor through fading memory. The Iron Man who once seemed indestructible now trembles, yet his spirit endures, etched into the ritual of Sundays, into the resilience of those who rise after every fall. Favre's journey is no longer about touchdowns or trophies. It is about the fragile beauty of being human, about the courage to keep standing even when broken. And so his legacy becomes a final echo, soft, enduring, eternal. It reminds America that heroes are not flawless but faithful, and that the truest victory lies not in never falling, but in rising again and again. Brett Favre's echo will live forever, carried through generations, whispered in the game itself, a gunslinger's fire that will never fade. Brett Favre's life is no longer just his own. It has become a mirror held up to America. In his trembling hands, we see the cost of our cheers, the price of our demands, the fragility of the heroes we once believed invincible. His story reminds us that greatness is not measured in yards or trophies, but in the courage to keep rising when the body falters, when memory fades, when silence replaces applause. And in that resilience, Favre offers a lesson for generations, that true strength is not in hiding pain, but in facing it with honesty, with love, with gratitude. Parents, coaches, fans, his journey asks us to teach boys not just how to fight, but how to feel, how to ask for help, how to endure with dignity. The gunslinger's fire now burns as a softer flame, guiding others through the shadows of their own battles. His legacy is carried forward not in statistics, but in the quiet resilience of every man, woman, and child who learns to rise again. Brett Favre gave America legendary Sundays. Now, in his afterglow, he gives us something greater, the courage to live gently, gratefully, and bravely, even when the world grows quiet. Brett Favre's story is not only about a man, it is about a culture that both built him and broke him. America cheered his toughness, demanded his resilience, glorified his pain, and then turned away when the cost became too visible. We celebrated the hits that rattled his brain, the nights he played through broken bones, the myth of the Iron Man who never missed a game. Yet now, as he trembles in silence, we are forced to confront the truth. Our heroes are human, and the price of our applause is often their health, their memory, their peace. Favre's decline is not just his own. It is a mirror of the way America treats its champions, loving them when they are invincible, abandoning them when they weaken. His journey asks us to reckon with what we value. Do we want immortality in the moment or humanity that endures? The gunslinger's fire has become a softer flame, illuminating not just his resilience, but our responsibility. Brett Favre's legacy is a call to change, to honor not only the victories, but the scars, to love our heroes not just when they rise, but when they falter. Brett Favre's story is not just about football, it is about the human condition. It is about a boy who was taught never to cry, who grew into a man cheered for his toughness, who became a legend defined by resilience, and who now faces the quiet unraveling of memory with trembling hands and unshaken love. His journey forces us to confront the cost of glory, the fragility of heroes, and the responsibility we share in how we honor them. America once celebrated his invincibility. Now it must learn to honor his vulnerability. For in those tremors, in those forgotten names, in those slow mornings of pain, lies the truest lesson. Strength is not in never falling, but in rising with grace, in loving through weakness, in living gratefully even when the body betrays. Brett Favre gave us legendary Sundays, but his greatest gift is the reminder that resilience is not about winning. It is about enduring, about softening, about still standing when the world grows quiet. And so the gunslinger's story closes, not with a touchdown, not with applause, but with a man sitting on a porch in Mississippi, holding Deanna's hand, watching the sunset gild the pines. His flame burns softer now, but it burns still. And in that flame, America sees itself, fragile, flawed, but still rising. Brett Favre's legacy is eternal, not because he was perfect, but because he was human. And in the end, that is the truest victory of all.